Thanks, Tam, for coming in today. I really appreciate that.
No problem.
So I'll start with telling you a bit about myself. My name's Ted. I work as a social worker, and I have been doing so for about 5 or so years now. Mostly work with young people and children, doing one-on-one mentoring, and that kind of thing. I'm at uni studying nursing, and I'm doing a communication assignment at the moment, which brings us to this interview. And so would you like to tell me a bit about what you do for a living?
Yeah, of course. I'm currently a service manager for an outside schoolhouse care program. We have currently a license for about 200 children, so it's a lot of families, and we have about 33 staff on at any time.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a rewarding program, and we mostly are just providing a fun and active program to include all children.
Cool. So you enjoy it?
Yeah, I love it. It's great.
Cool.
Busy.
Yeah. All right. Cool. So you said that you have to. So you have a bunch of employees. 30, did you say?
Yeah, 33.
33. And so you have a lot of employees, and you have over 200 children, or 200 licensed to 200.
We're licensed to 200. We probably have about 450 enrolled students.
Oh, okay, wow, okay. That's still a lot of children.
About 200 a day.
Yeah, okay. I imagine that would get pretty stressful.
Extremely.
And so then you've also got, I imagine, all the parents that you have to engage with as well.
Yes, yeah, definitely. Lots of different parents, carers, grandparents. And then also sometimes teachers. And
of course.
The wider community.
Principal. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're the big boss?
We are governed by our P&C committee.
Okay, yeah.
So they endorse all our programs and everything, and I often have to build cases for things and explain to the P&C legislation so that we have to follow.
So build cases as in if you want to buy something for the centre, you have to present a case, is that what you mean?
Yeah, I have to communicate to them why we need it and why it's worthwhile and how it's beneficial.
Okay, cool. So in my job as a social worker, I obviously spend a lot of time with young people, one-on-one mostly, and I will have a certain way of communicating with them. I'll be very down to earth and try and use their language and be very open. Often the best sort of times of interaction, when I get the most engagement, is when we're both sitting in the car and we're not like directly facing each other, so it's not confrontational. And so we're driving and we might have the music on and we're just like relaxed, and that's when I get the most disclosures and we talk the most about like actual issues. And so then, but like with that job, I also have to engage a lot with funding bodies and case managers and team leaders and co-workers and that sort of thing. And so I use a lot of different communication skills for the different contexts that I have to, different people that I have to engage with. So I'll have a very clinical sort of mindset when I'm talking to case managers and that sort of thing. Whereas, like I said, with the young people, I'm far more relaxed and using their sort of language. So what I'm trying to say is, what I'm trying to ask is, do you have different sort of styles of communication that you use for the parents and the children and the employees and that sort of thing? Does it vary for the different relationships that you would have?
It is varied. I'm fairly new to this, so I am still building my communication skills with the different different aspects. So the staff are different to the parents, and then the children. And it depends on the relationship with the parent, how you can talk to them, how you want to speak in a way that they can understand, and also, as you said, non-confrontational. If you're bringing up an incident with their child, sensitive matters require a certain amount of tact, but it is a massive learning curve for me, having such a wide and diverse community that I'm communicating with.
Yeah, sure. Okay. So, well, imagine that, there'd be a lot of parents, so you'd have to talk to them if a child gets hurt or something like that. You'd have to tell parents about that, and some parents would be quite protective of their children, obviously.
Yeah, definitely, and they can get quite flustered sometimes. Yeah. Part of my job as communicating is just listening, not actually, and making sure that they feel validated, and
Okay.
then once I've heard what they have to say, doing my best to provide a solution for the issue if
sure.
it is a problem.
Yeah. And so I imagine you mentioned before that about the relationships that you have with the parents.
Yes.
So how would you feel, or how do you feel about like building rapport? Do you think that's an important thing to do?
Yeah, definitely. Sorry.
No, you're right. Okay.
I just caught nearly coughed then. Yeah, definitely. Some parents are more approachable than others, obviously.
Sure.
Some are a little bit harder to catch.
Just like people.
Yeah, and some are more willing to stick around and have a chat. It's obviously a lot easier than to build that rapport with those parents that you're having, touching base with more on a regular basis.
Yeah.
But it's still important to be speaking with all parents, and and sometimes it's involving the children, sometimes it's not, it's just a one-on-one conversation. But there's lots of different means of communication, even just communicating what they need from the service.
Yeah.
What are they looking for when they enroll their children with us?
Yeah, absolutely. What they want to get out of it.
Yeah.
They know their children better than anyone else, so asking their opinion about it is probably the best way to help meet the needs of the child.
Definitely.
Yeah. So with your interactions with your staff as well, do you find that you have to have being too friendly or maybe having too much rapport with them almost dangerous, because you'd have to be a disciplinary sometimes?
Yes, that's true.
Yeah.
It is a fine line that you have to walk with that, because we want to have like a fun and happy work environment, and that is our culture. We are quite laid back and informal, but there are processes that we have to stick by, and
of course,
sometimes you do have to reprimand staff or remind them of certain procedures that they need to be following, certain expectations of them. So it's important. It's much easier if you upfront let the staff know what is expected of them.
Sure. So everyone knows what's going on.
Yeah, so everyone's well informed, and then when you reprimand them, you can refer back to the different means that you've told them expectations.
Yeah. So they.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So they know what is expected of them.
Yeah.
So you've already laid the groundwork there.
Yes.
So they know everything that you need from them and they need from you. Yeah. And so that's important in that role, that you have to make sure that everyone knows what's going on.
That's true. Yeah. So we do that through staff meetings and email. We have staff cupboard.
Okay.
So that everyone knows what's happening, and if there's any updates or changes, that they're the first to know about it.
Sure. And so it sounds like you have a lot of different sort of medium of communication. It's not just verbal.
Yeah. No, definitely not just verbal. Actually, it is mostly electronic.
Okay, so emails.
Yeah, it's just the generation of staff that we have. That's the most. That's the opted communication staff. Most effective. Yes, it's much easier to get in contact with them. Almost everyone has a mobile or an email account of some sort that we can talk to them through.
Well, I know personally I'm shocking at replying to emails and reading them so much how effective it would be with me.
Maybe not. We might have to work on something different.
Yeah, of course. I just find being like face to face with people, you can read their emotions and their body language, and you can get a lot more out of it than when you're sending emails or phone calls and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I see. Yeah.
So you obviously would spend a lot of time with children.
Yes.
Yeah.
Daily.
Yeah.
A lot.
So yeah. So do you would obviously so you talk differently to the children. So would you find that you are spending a lot of time sort of down on their level almost? Like
it is about how the language that you use,
the
language that they can understand.
Yeah, okay, sure.
Really clear, precise, short. Never arguing with the child.
Okay. So why is that? Why don't you want to argue? No reason.
No. I just, depending on what it is, if you're sort of setting a standard, if you leave it open to argue, the child may believe that there's compromise there, and they can sort of get the upper hand. They do that with a lot of educators, so we try not to encourage arguing between us. But we do listen to the child's opinion.
Don't just bulldoze them.
No, and it does depend on the child. Some children you have to be quite blunt and straightforward, and that's how you can approach that. But others require a more gentle approach.
So your communication skills wouldn't just differ from the different groups of people with the PNC and the parents and the children and employees. It also changes from the individual on what's effective for that person.
Yeah, that's true. Also, we don't raise our voice at children.
Sure.
I feel like that's an effective way to speak with them.
It's a bit old school.
Yeah, no, definitely not firm, but definitely not yelling or offensive language in any way. It's very usually positive reinforcement as opposed to negative. Is much more effective with children if you're setting up goals or achievements, or if we're going through behaviour management. We want a sort of a positive outcome and a positive reward system, not negative, not always disciplinary.
Yeah, I definitely find with my work that positive reinforcement rather than any kind of disciplinary action is far more effective in maintaining that relationship. So I mean, like, I do a lot of work with children, and I find it's fun most of the time. Do you get that?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Children are so open and honest, and they just tell you how it is.
Yeah.
And it's great. Yeah.
Adults are just a bunch of liars. Sometimes, maybe. Yeah.
Oh, that's true. No, they're just so, they're fun to work with. And you can learn something new all the time. Yeah. They are constantly surprising me, and I should never underestimate them.
Oh, cool. Sounds like you find it very rewarding.
Yeah, it is rewarding work.
Excellent. Cool. Well, I think that's all we have time for. But thanks very much for coming in.
No problem.
I really appreciate it.
It was my pleasure.
Thanks. I wonder how long that went for.